to go until Election Day. And Elon Musk now sounds the alarm. The steal is on. Good morning, Kuhner country. Okay, my friends, look, we are now officially 2 weeks away from November 5th, Election Day. And in many ways, now things look extremely good for former President Donald J. Trump. He is now clearly surging. He is now closing hard, closing fast. He's got a tremendous amount of momentum. There is now a new batch of polls. YouGov, The Economist, 538. I could go on, Nate Silver, which shows that Trump now is poised for an historic victory on election night. He is now leading in the national popular vote. More importantly, in almost every key battleground, whether it be Arizona, Nevada, Georgia, North Carolina, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, and Michigan. Trump is now in the lead. So, as of this moment, Trump is now on the cusp of victory. However, the Democrats now are clearly in the process of trying to steal this election. And the question now is, with 14 days to go, what will Trump's team do to try to stop it? What can we do to try to stop it? And then can we mitigate the steal enough to guarantee and ensure that Trump wins on election night? So here is now the absolute latest. Fox News' decision desk, the person who heads it, Arnon Mishkin. Remember, he is the one who made that infamous decision in 2020 on election night, calling Arizona early for Joe Biden. That man has now come out and said, oh, don't think you're going to get results on election night. We're not going to know the winner on election night. No. He says it'll take at least 4 days. 4 days, i.e., Election Day is Tuesday. November 5th is Tuesday. So he says the following Saturday, 4 days later, are we probably going to know who won the election. So election night is over. We don't know who. This is what I find incredible. We don't even know who wins our elections anymore. We have to wait days and days and days afterwards. They're trying to now establish this as the new norm. Furthermore, not only is Michigan saying we're going to all have to wait 4 days. This is not going to be, hey, don't think you're going to know who's president Tuesday night or Wednesday morning, the morning after the election. No. It's going to take 3 or 4 days. Why? Here it comes. Arizona, Georgia, Pennsylvania, Michigan, all of them now say, all of them, they will not have total election results, voting results for us on election night. That they are going to need at least 3 to 4 days to count all the mail-in ballots, all the absentee ballots, and they're going to be accepting ballots for 3 days after Tuesday, which is November 5th. 3 days after November 5th, they will still be accepting overseas ballots and absentee ballots. So they're going to be counting for days and days and days after the election is over. As I wrote on X last night, this is a repeat of 2020 all over again, where when everybody went to bed on election night, Trump was clearly leading in Wisconsin, in Michigan, in Georgia, and in Pennsylvania. And Shazam, baby, they kept counting and counting, and more ballots were being dropped off in the dead of night, many of them in white vans. And before you know it, Joe Biden was declared the victor. Well, here it is. They're going for the same playbook again. Now, right out of the gate, this is what I find incredible. All of this early voting, all of these mail-in ballots, all of these Dominion voting machines, allegedly to make voting easier and to make everything much more efficient. Allegedly, everything being done so we can speed up and make more efficient the election process. And yet we have to keep dragging election results for days and days and days afterwards. We can't find out who the victor is on election night. Now, why is it that every other nation in the world, can tell us who won their election that very night? How come most countries in the world can actually forget voting machines, forget early ballots or early balloting or early voting, forget mail-in ballots? Everybody votes on one day. And then by the end of the night, through hand counting, they declare a winner. It's the whole world can do this. But no. We have to vote for weeks and weeks, like right now. Georgia, yesterday, they began, or was it 2 days ago, they began voting. Huge lines. Early voting. People are going to be voting now for the next 2 weeks in Georgia. And we won't find out the actual winner until Friday or Saturday after the election. But in the past, when we all voted on one day, in person, using paper ballots, hand counted, we could tell you the winner by midnight. Does this make any sense to you? It doesn't make any sense to me. Now, furthermore, and this is where Elon now is really telling everybody, wake up. These corrupt, crooked Democrats are trying to steal it, not just by delaying the vote count, not just by pushing this 3-4 days later so they can make up with these ballot counts in the dead of night. But listen now to this. In Michigan, we have a hold now of the voting list. How many are eligible voters? How many are registered voters? In the state of Michigan, which is has one of the most corrupt electoral systems in the country, maybe the most corrupt, arguably the most corrupt, there are 7.9 million eligible voters. That means citizens, legal citizens, age 18 and above. And this counts people who live overseas, people in the military, people who send in, overseas ballots. 7.9 million eligible voters. Take a guess how many registered voters they have. Take a guess. Well, Jeff, I don't know. Not everybody votes. 7 million? No, come on, Jeff. 7.5 million. Hold on. 100%? 7.9 million registered voters, Jeff? That's almost impossible. 8.3 million registered voters. 8.3 million registered voters. So there are literally, as I speak to you now, and this was Elon's point last night on X, there are literally more registered voters, over nearly 500,000 more registered voters than there are eligible voters. So the election hasn't even started yet, and you've already got overvotes in Michigan. In other words, there's 10 people in a room. Only 10 of us are eligible to vote, but you've got 12 people registered to vote. How does this happen? Because the voting rolls are loaded up with non-citizens, illegal aliens, dead people, And that's how Democrats are going to get an extra 500,000 votes whenever they need it. Remember, Joe Biden only, and I put this in air quotes, won Michigan, quote unquote, by 150,000 votes. You got 500,000 votes to play with. That's the entire ball game. Remember, Arizona, Georgia, Wisconsin, all of those 3 states were decided in 2020 by 44,000 votes. 44,000. That's it. That's it. So 100,000 here, 200,000 there, 400,000 there, and that's the entire election. My friends, the steal is on. And the question now is, what should Trump do about it? What should we do about it? And how do we try to block or at least mitigate or reduce it so that Trump wins in November? Do you believe the Democrats will steal this election? Your calls next. 620 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's Bulldozer. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, my friends, a lot to talk about today. Very, very important show. I'm going to be talking about election fraud, both here in Massachusetts, which is now becoming undeniable, and New Hampshire, again, undeniable, and clearly now in the key battleground states. So, big hat tip to Elon Musk. He is putting it all on the line. He blew the whistle yesterday. I'm not going to say last night, yesterday afternoon. He got a hold of the voting lists in Michigan. And there's no question now. They are rigging the election, and they're going to try to steal it. 8.3 million registered voters in a state that only has 7.9 million. I can give you the exact breakdown, but 7.9 million eligible voters. So you're looking now at about 436,000 more people registered to vote than literally are eligible to vote. And as he said, you should be ashamed of yourself. And I'm calling you out, Michigan Secretary of State, Joycelyn Benson. He was on the warpath yesterday, saying that what you are doing is an absolute disgrace to election integrity and to the voters and citizens of Michigan and the country. So this is what Elon wrote yesterday, blasting Michigan's corrupt Secretary of State, uber Democrat, Joycelyn Benson. She has been doing everything in her power to weaken the state's election security. So what they have found is that there are now more active voters on the voter rolls than eligible voters in Michigan. In all of the counties in Michigan, there are now more registered voters than there are more registered voters than eligible voters. And so as Elon Musk put it, he said, well, obviously now there's massive voter fraud. We're looking at dead people. We're looking at illegal aliens. We're looking at non-citizens. We're looking at people voting 2 times or 3 times. He goes, you should be ashamed of yourself that you're allowing this to happen. Now, she tried to claim that this was disinformatio, Russian for disinformation. And he just hammered her with the facts, saying there's no disinformation, quote unquote. Shame on you for blatantly lying to the public. So now we know there are far more people registered to vote than there are eligible voters, which now means that you are laying the groundwork, like what happened in 2020, to be able to manufacture 200,000, 300,000, 400,000 votes for Kamala Harris and tip the state in her favor at will. There's no getting around this now. So the question is, where do we go from here? What do we do? Now, one of the things I suggested on X, which did not resonate for whatever reason, people didn't care for it, which is fine, but I want to reiterate it now and get your take, is I think Trump on election night should say to hell with this and just declare victory. On election night, come out and say, no, we're not waiting 3 days. Look, we're not a third world banana republic. In fact, third world countries give you final total voting results by the end of the night. For example, El Salvador recently had an election. By the way, in-person voting, paper ballots, hand-counted votes. So they hand-count them afterwards. And what was it? By midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning, they told you who won the race. So even third world countries can tell you who wins the election the night of the election. No, the only place now that can't do it is us. That's how dysfunctional our entire election system has become. I think Trump needs to come out and say, look, this is bullcrap. Okay, you know what I really want to say? This is pure and utter BS. And we're not going to stand for this anymore. We're not waiting until Saturday, the Saturday after November 5th, 4 days later, to find out who's president of the United States. As you guys just keep counting and counting and counting and counting ballots coming in from all over, God knows where. So, no, on election night, when the results start pouring in, he should come out and say, I won Arizona, I won Nevada, I won Michigan, I won Pennsylvania, I won Wisconsin. You want to wait till Saturday? We're not going to accept the results on Saturday. You're not going to repeat 2020 all over again. Absolutely not. He's got to come out in front of this. Number two, this has got to go to court right now. The Secretary of State of Michigan must be sued right now. Trump should hold a press conference with Elon right now, and say, with a piece of paper, saying, here it is. We have the smoking gun data from the Michigan Secretary of State's own office. 8.3 million registered voters to 7.9 million eligible voters. It's a crooked election. Your voter rolls are corrupt and rife with fraud. You're setting up to steal. Do it now. 6:32 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's Bulldozer. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, just a very quick, important recap, and then I'm going to go right to the phone lines. 617-266-6868. Okay, so Fox News, and it's not just Fox News. It's this is CNN. CNN, ABC News, CBS News, MSNBC, NBC News, all of the major networks now are preparing us. They're trying to preempt us from wanting to have results on election night. So they're telling us you're going to have to wait at least 4 days. So the election is Tuesday, November 5th. They're saying pretty much by the Saturday of that week, 3 or 4 days later, we will know who won. On top of that, Arizona, Georgia, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin, Wisconsin, are telling us that it's going to take at least 3 to 4 days to properly finish counting all of the mail-in ballots, the absentee ballots, all of the early voting, so they will not have results for us on election night. So Arizona, you're going to have to wait till Friday or Saturday. Georgia, you're going to have to wait. Pennsylvania, you're going to have to wait. And I believe Wisconsin, you're going to have to wait. So it's going to be a repeat of 2020 all over again. What I find disgusting about Fox News in particular is the person who broke that recently was Arnon Mishkin. he runs the decision desk at Fox News. And he gave this scoop to Politico, saying, well, I just want all of you to know, if you're expecting to know who wins the election, don't stay up watching Fox all night, because you're not going to know for 4 days. This is literally the guy who went on Fox News with Brett Boring, and I forget the other, was it Dana Perino, or they all seem the same to me. It's just one rhino after another. But went on with Brett Baer and I forget who else, McCallum or Dana Perino or whoever, and said, oh, Arizona, it's fallen to Joe Biden. And people were still voting in Arizona. They hadn't even closed the polls. That's how early they called it for Arizona. Well, the same guy who helped Biden and the Democrats steal 2020 is now coming out and saying, 4 days later, about Saturday is when you're going to know. So there's going to be massive ballot dumps in the dead of night. And my fear is Trump's up 1 million votes in Pennsylvania. And before you know it, it's 800,000, then 600,000, then 300,000, then 100,000. And then by Saturday, oh my God, she won by 80,000 votes. This is incredible. They're setting up to steal. Elon Musk is now, talk about a 5-alarm fire. Elon Musk is now saying, look at Michigan. This does not make sense. There is something now going on in Michigan that is obviously blatantly corrupt and fraudulent. There's no getting around it. 8.3 million registered voters, but there's only 7.9 million eligible voters. There's only and that counts military people overseas, people who live in Michigan, or citizens who are living, say, in Europe or whatever, and they have to send their ballots overseas. 7.9 million are eligible to vote. But they've got 8.3 million people registered. In fact, it's more like 436,000 is the difference. So listen now to Elon. This is Elon now, okay? Challenging, and she's extremely corrupt, the Democrat Secretary of State, Joycelyn Benson. Quote, Joycelyn Michelle Benson. This is what Elon Musk said on X. Shame on you for blatantly lying to the public. There are far more people registered to vote than there are eligible voters. They're going to have almost 500,000 votes to play with to put Michigan over the top. To put Kamala Harris over the top in Michigan. Listen now to Elon. He's saying we have a third world election system with the corruption and fraud of a third world election system. It's time to go back to what worked in this country. Roll cut 17, Mike.
Frankly, I'd be happy if it was just that citizens voted. I'd call that a win. If we could just make sure that only legal citizens can vote, which is how it's supposed to be, I'd say that'd be quite a victory compared to where we are right now. And I think having more transparency on elections, maximum transparency on elections, and as I've said before, I think we should not allow voting machines of any kind. I've been programming computers since I was 9 years old, and I know how easy it is to get a line of software wrong or hack a computer, and so I think the last thing we want to do is have electronic voting machines. We want paper ballots in person with ID.
That's it. He's complete. That's the only way to stop this. That's the only way. Now, let me just say this, because the lines are jammed. I want to go to the phone lines. God willing, if Trump prevails in November against all of these immense odds against him, and I believe he will, I truly believe he will, the number one thing he has to do is pass the SAVE Act through a Republican House, a Republican Senate, and he sign it immediately. Immediately. We have to have election integrity. Voter ID. You have to have proof of citizenship to register to vote. Paper ballots. No voting machines. Clean voter rolls. And everybody votes on the same day. Few exceptions for the military, people who are really ill, who just can't make it to the polls. We can make some exceptions, obviously. But for the most part, same day voting, paper ballots, voter ID. Because this is going to kill this country. And my fear is that this time they're going to try to steal it. And if they do steal it, we're not going to accept it. I'm telling you, we're not going to accept it. They are playing with fire. Agree, disagree, and one last thing all of you need to know about. Kamala Harris now is bragging at her rallies that they're going to get Elon Musk. That they're going to unleash the justice system, the Justice Department against Elon. He's already being investigated on multiple fronts. So just like they're trying to put Trump behind bars for half a millennium, 500 years, because Elon has backed Trump and is speaking out, putting all of his wealth. Remember, he's, I think, the wealthiest man in the world. He's putting everything he has on the line. And as he told Tucker Carlson in an interview, I know what this means to go against the regime. I'm probably going to be arrested if Kamala wins. Kamala now is openly bragging, we're going to get Elon. And the crowds are cheering. They want his head on a platter because he's one of the few who has the guts and the courage to call out the election corruption and the voting fraud, the cheat machine that the Democrats are now waging and imposing and implementing on our country. So all I can say is, God bless Elon. He's now ringing the 5-alarm fire. So let me set it up. I promise I'm going to take calls. We've only got about less than a minute before we go to break. So I'll take all of your calls on the other side. We now have 4 states, the key battleground states, that are now saying no election results, final results on election night. You're going to have to wait at least 4 days. The media is saying there will be no winner at least until Saturday after the election. Do you now fear that we're watching a repeat of 2020? And God forbid, if that happens, what should Trump do? And what should the American people do? It is now the question. 617-266-6868. I promise all of your calls next. 649 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's bulldozer, cleaning up the liberal bull. Angelo in Rockland. You're going to kick us off, Angelo. Thanks for holding and welcome.
Hey, good morning, Jeff. It's unbelievable what we're hearing, isn't it?
Well, I mean, I'm not surprised, Angelo. And, notice this. It's Elon that's talking about it. Where's Mitch McConnell? Where's Meager Mike? Where's Speaker Mike Johnson? Where's the RNC? Where's Lindsey Graham? I mean, he's always got a big mouth. How come he's not opening his big mouth now? In other words, again, where are the Republicans? It's Elon that's sounding the alarm. So, again, Angelo, if the Republicans had not capitulated to the steal in 2020, Trump would be president right now. He'd still be, finishing his second term. So they're being quiet again. Now, thank the Lord, Elon is speaking out, because I think by speaking out, he's putting a huge spotlight on this, and we can at least stop it, or if not fully stop it, at least, mitigate it to some degree, reduce it to some degree to give Trump a chance to win. But I'm sorry, I digress. Go ahead, Angelo.
The Republican support, they have to step up. You hit the nail on the head when you said that they have to go with that fraud right away and hit them with the lawyers. Absolutely. I mean, I don't want to sound like a Monday morning quarterback, but I think fraud is rampant with voting. I think you have to have, maybe with the technology we have, you can go in that booth, they can use your ID, face recognition, and you talk and say, I want Trump, I want Harris, whoever you want, and it's on record. So now when the steal is in, now you can go back to those records and really weed it. And maybe it might take 4 days to do it that way. It shouldn't take 4 days now. It's absolutely ridiculous, and the buck has to stop here. And another thing is that they don't have, the Democrats have the power to do what they're doing. And didn't they put into legislation that their military can use deadly force on American citizens? So they already have the ball in play if we're to rise. But when Black Lives Matter arose, they let them burn the cities down. But when we're going to do it, they're aiming the guns at us. It's terrible. People wake up. That's all I have to say right now. It's unbelievable.
Angelo, thank you very much for that call. Look, that's why Trump is saying you've got to swamp the polls. Flood the polls. Vote, vote, vote. That's why I've been calling for it. Dan Bongino's been calling for it. Tucker Carlson's been calling for it. You've got to bring 10 people with you. I know it's not easy. I know it's hard. Some people are saying, Jeff, I don't even know 10 people to bring to the polls. Fine, whatever. Bring 5. Bring 3, bring 2. But, the goal, if possible, should be bring as many as you can, but, bring 10. Because they're definitely manufacturing votes. There's no question. I don't want to hear this garbage anymore. There's no proof of voter fraud. It's right, it's right underneath everybody's nose. And that's why Elon is, to his credit, I mean, he's going apoplectic. I mean, why is Elon Musk going toe to toe with Michigan's Secretary of State? He's got multiple companies to run, man. This is the RNC's job. This is the job of the Republicans. Please, I'm not criticizing Elon. On the contrary, I'm praising him. But that's what I'm saying. So it takes the wealthiest man in the world to have the balls to stand up to that lunatic Secretary of State in Michigan, Joycelyn Benson, that whack job. And look, just point out the obvious. Please don't forget this. 8.3 million registered voters. 7.9 million eligible voters. How's that possible? You've got more people by almost 500,000 registered to vote than people eligible to vote. So don't tell me non-citizens aren't voting. That's why Elon was cracking those jokes in Pennsylvania, saying, hey, if we could just have an election where only the citizens vote. Oh, hallelujah. Hallelujah. It's there. The fraud is there. It's naked. It's obvious. Sue, sue, sue. Now is the time. Take the Michigan government. Take Secretary of State Benson. Take her to court now. Now. Yesterday. Suzanne in Ashland. Thanks for holding, Suzanne, and welcome.
Morning, Jeff. How are you today?
Very good. Very good. Fired up, but good, Suzanne.
Yeah, I'm a little fired up myself, Joe. Jeff, you got to ask yourself, how did we get here? How did we get here? And Elon right now is playing the role of the entire GOP party. I mean, we have been conditioned for the last 10, 20, and who knows, going back, who knows, but we have been conditioned to accept this stuff. There's a psyop going on in the background here where, J6, they've got people imprisoned without charges, without a lawyer. Nobody's screaming from the rooftop. The GOP party is dead. These people have disappeared. I would have thought the day after the election in 2020, instead of forming a J6, Liz Cheney, Adam Schiff, Shifty Schiff committee, we should have been discussing, that should have been an election integrity committee. And I agree with you on one thing, Jeff. We are in a third world election process. However, it's a high-tech third world election program we have going on here. Thank God for Elon. I don't understand, Jeff. Help me understand this. Two things. Why is this person, Jocelyn, and all the people in the election committees in these states, Arizona, why are they still there? And why, at the end of the day, we are not going to get a fair shot at this because once again, federal, alphabet agencies are blocking us at every turn in the road. So how do we overcome this? I mean, I really think the gentleman before me, if the military has the ability to go after Americans who will oppose the results of the election, we're at a point in time where the military might be going after citizens, but maybe the ones that they should be going after. And maybe that's we don't want to start any trouble there, but maybe the tables are going to turn this year, I think, one way or another. And I am hopeful. Thank you, Elon. Jocelyn's phone, Arizona's election, everybody's phone in these states that are cheating that we know of should be ringing off the hook today.
Oh, amen.
This is the time for Americans to find the courage to call out the Lindsey Grahams, the McConnells. Listen, I don't know. It's just insane that we have gotten to this point through our inability.
Well, Suzanne, look, I'll answer your question. You're completely right. It really is insane. The problem is many people don't vote in these state races. I'm really, that's how this Joycelyn Benson has gotten in, as Elon called her out. He called her out by her first name, middle, and last name. He goes, I want to make it clear that it's you. So he said, Joycelyn Michelle Benson, you should be ashamed of yourself. Ashamed of yourself. I'm calling you out. You should be ashamed. You are lying to the people of your own state. You're the Secretary of State. And you've got nearly 500,000 more registered voters than people who are eligible to vote. And you call yourself an honest, non-corrupt Secretary of State. And the thing about Elon, just, think about this. He's been a lifelong Democrat. The first time he voted for a Republican was just 2 years ago in the 2022 midterms. First time he's ever endorsed a Republican is now under Trump. So here's a guy who's been voting Republican for less than 2 years, actually, if you want to get technical. And he's doing more to advance the Republican cause than all of those losers in the swamp combined. So that tells you everything you need to know. Now, as for Michigan, look, I've seen it firsthand. I talk about local politics and everybody gets mad at me. They go, oh, it's so irrelevant. Oh, Jeff, talk about the big issues. Talk about, the national campaign, national issues. I'm like, okay, but that's how they get themselves in positions of power where they can implement all of this corruption and voter fraud. So, okay, you guys all get mad at the Kuhner man when I talk about, talk about the Massachusetts Republican Party. The Michigan Republican Party, not quite, but almost as corrupt and useless as the Massachusetts Republican Party. So the Massachusetts Republican Party refuses to fight the Democrats. And what I realized is how corrupt they are. There's money to be made in being a rhino. There's money to be made in being, as I say, the Washington Generals to the Democrats' Harlem Globetrotters. You're the loser. You're the controlled opposition. So I talk about this. Their goal is to divide real opposition to the Democratic regime. That's what they're paid to do. And they make a pretty penny at it. It's lucrative. It's good business for them. The Michigan Republican Party is almost as bad and as corrupt and as greedy as the Massachusetts Republican Party. And so they are not able to hold Joycelyn Benson accountable. And they keep losing state race after state race after state race because just like here, whenever you put up a good conservative, they're sabotaged by the rhinos and the establishment. And then when a guy like me comes along and points out to all the corruption at the state committee level and all the corruption in the media. And now I'm calling out the Boston Herald and you know who else. And that's how you get to the position that we're in today. So it's not good enough. I'm sorry. And our founding fathers told us this. If you want a republic, if you want to be a free citizen, a free human being, it's not just vote once every 4 years. Vote, in 2024, and I'll see you in 2028. You got to vote in local races. You got to vote in state races. You have to be engaged, patriotic citizen. Local, state, federal. It's not just every 4 years, show up, cast a ballot, bye, see you in the next 4 years. And it's just, in the end, too many of us, and I'm counting myself as well, because I could be more vigilant and frankly more active. Too many of us are just too lethargic, too complacent. And that's how they've gotten us to this point. Now, the good thing is we're all starting to wake up. I know I'm waking up. So, you know what they say, all politics is local? It starts local, it goes up to the state, and then from the state to the federal level. Look at our Secretary of State. He's as corrupt as they come. He's as corrupt as the day is long. Everybody, look, I'm going to say this. I want to get in big trouble for saying this, but what the hell? If I'm not here to speak the truth, what's the point of me being behind this microphone? Who says Massachusetts is a deep blue state? I mean, who says? Well, Jeff, they keep voting in Democrats. Well, yeah, with the corrupt election system they have here, yeah. But what if we actually had honest, free, fair elections in Massachusetts? I don't know. Maybe we'd be a lot more purple than people imagine. Here, let's go even one level higher. How about a Republican Party that is actually serious about opposing the Democrats? Instead of having this fraud, Amy Carnevale, who's a lobbyist, part of what's called a consultant class. She's there to line her pockets. She's there to sabotage Trump conservatives as she pretends to be a conservative. Again and again and again and again and again. Hey, look, we're 2 weeks out. Republicans are going to get slaughtered in this state. Slaughtered. And she's done nothing. But what was the spin? She's a winner. Jeff, she's a winner. We need a winner. Where's the winning? I don't see the winning. Do you see the winning? I don't see the winning. So this is my point. Get a real Republican Party. Get a real opposition going. Ask that you have clean elections, clean up these voter rolls, and you would be shocked. And then let me add the third, like the Holy Trinity. Let me add the third piece to the political Holy Trinity. How about you do what Trump does? How about you go to working class people, independents, moderates, and give them a compelling vision and reason to vote for you? That's what Trump is doing. That's why he's at the gates of victory. The auto workers are backing. He's not winning Michigan because of the Michigan Republican Party. I can guarantee you that. He's the one that's carrying Michigan on his shoulders. He's the one that went to the auto workers and said, here's why you should vote for me. The blue collar, the steel workers, this is why you should vote for me. He went to the Arab American community. Donald Trump, daughter Jewish, grandkids Jewish, one of the biggest supporters of Israel this country's ever seen. He goes to the Arab American community, and he's got them backing him in this election. So how about, hey, talk to the working class, talk to independents, give them a compelling reason to vote for you. You may be shocked. They'll maybe start voting for you. Try it. So this is not rocket science. What I have learned in being on the air in this state, we can easily turn this state around. We can win all 50 states. It takes will. It takes honesty. It takes determination. But everywhere I go, I see greed, corruption, and people looking to serve themselves. And that's the Republican establishment to its very core. If you want to know the truth, that's most of the so-called conservative media to its very core. That's what it's all about. Follow the money. So, you want to be a Republican loser in Michigan? Believe it or not, it pays well. That's why you get a Joycelyn Benson. What self-respecting Republican Party would allow voting rolls in the most important election of our lifetime? 8.3 million registered voters, 7.9 million eligible voters, and Elon Musk is leading the charge? Where's the Michigan GOP? I mean, this is pathetic. Suzanne, thank you for that call. Vince in Deutschland, in Germany. Thanks for holding, Vince, and welcome.
Jeff, it's not just the Michigan Republican Party. It's not just the Massachusetts Republican Party. Down there in Georgia, you had Brad Raffensperger come on the air and say they'll have 75% of the votes counted on election night, and they'll have to wait till Friday for the other 25%, which are overseas. Do you really believe that 1/4 of Georgia eligible voters live overseas, Jeff? Do you really believe that? And I'll even point to Maricopa County, Arizona, the epicenter of the fraud in that state. Nothing has changed there. Absolutely nothing. And I'm telling you right now, they've greased the skids. That's why DOD Directive 5240.01 was issued on the 27th of September of this year, because if we oppose this steal, they're going to put troops on the streets and they are going to kill us. What is it going to take for people to realize that? There is no law enforcement mechanism to stop this. We're going to have to take it to the streets, and I hate to say it, Jeff, we're going to have to bring out the guns.
Well, Vince, we got 2 weeks. Let's keep our fingers crossed. Trump is clearly winning in the polls, and his people are going to try. I reached out to his people. They're aware of it. Elon Musk has been calling Trump. They've had multiple conversations now about this and these other states. They're getting their team of lawyers involved. So let's not jump the gun. But look, Vince, I hear where you're coming from. I don't think the American people are going to accept it this time. I can hear it in your voice. I can see the text line. If they're going to play this, and they're going to play it, wait 3 days, wait 4 days. And by the way, you're 1,000% correct on Raffensperger. He goes on CBS News with a straight face. Okay, that rhino traitor. And he says, well, we'll have 75% of the votes counted by election night. I'm thinking, Georgia's a big state, man. He goes, but the other 25%, well, we've got military ballots and we've got overseas ballots. We can't count that until Friday or Saturday. You mean to tell me that 25% of the voting public in Georgia is living in Europe or Asia or whatever? I don't believe you. It defies common sense. So those rhinos want to stab Trump right in the back. That, just like they did him in 2020. He's a snake in the grass. So, look, I think what they're miscalculating is no one's going to accept a Kamala victory. No one's going to believe it. No one is going to believe that woman, what is she going to get? 85, 90 million votes if they're going to steal this thing? This woman is going to get 90 million votes? Underperforming with black men? Underperforming with Latinos? underperforming with minorities, underperforming with women, underperforming with young voters. And all of a sudden now, oh my God, the votes just keep coming in. We're not buying it this time. We're not buying it. And look, they can pass whatever directive or order they want. Most people in the military, I know the rank and file of the military. They're like you, Vince. They're not going to shoot on their fellow citizens. They're just not. So I think the regime has a big surprise coming for them in 2 weeks. We'll see. I don't want to jump the gun. But the steal is now that they're trying to steal. Now, you try doesn't mean you succeed. But it's like a bank robbery now. They're trying to rob the bank. It's obvious. Vince, thank you for that call. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, Elon now sounds the alarm. Michigan, the steal is on. 720 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's Bulldozer. 617-266-6868 is the number. Denise in Beverly. Thanks for holding, Denise, and welcome.
How are you?
I'm very good. How are you, Denise?
Good. I wanted to tell you a little story. I've been I live in Beverly, so I have like Joan Lovely and Tom Walsh and, South Mountain and all them Democrats for, my senators and my congressmen, whatever. So for the last couple months, I've been calling Joan Lovely's office and Tom Walsh's office about voter ID. And I've been bugging. Why can't we have voter ID? What's your problem? They send me to they tell me I have to talk to the election committee or whatever, the other committee thing there. So they give me the number, I call them, and they said, no, that's up to the legislators. So I called back Joan Lovely, and I called back Tom Walsh's office, and they tell me, no, I have to talk to them. And they keep going back and forth. So then I finally called Joan Lovely's office, and I said, listen, first of all, Jeff, she did, when my son was addicted to the heroin and stuff, she did a lot. Like, she came to all my stuff, like my vigils, my addiction walk. She showed up, but they never got him a bed. They never got him the treatment he needed. So when she told me on the phone that voter ID, they're not going to cheat, she goes, we're not, Denise, we're very honest. She goes, how can we cheat? And I was telling them how they can cheat. And she went on, we're very honest, we're not going to cheat, Denise. I said, well, then why don't you want voter ID? So the other day, I called her up, and I called her constituent and answered the phone. And I told her that I wasn't voting for her this time because she was the only Democrat that I would vote for because she did show up at my son's stuff. And she called me up after I told her constituent I wasn't voting for her. She called me up and screamed at me, told me, don't you ever call this office again. Don't you ever call me for anything ever again. I couldn't believe it. So I tried to call her back and explain to her why. And it's because of the voter ID and everything. And she called me back up again and screamed at me, told me, don't call this office again. Do you believe it?
So there you go. Well, there you go, Denise, you see? So there you go. They won't even hear or listen to the reason why they lost your vote. And look, I think it was the checkmate argument. You made the checkmate argument. If you're all so honest as you claim, and there's no fraud going on, then what are you afraid of? What's the big deal? Why not have voter ID? It'll put everybody's mind at ease. So if you're all holier than thou, and you're absolutely perfect, and you've got nothing wrong, and you're doing nothing wrong, so then what's the problem? Have voter ID. And this way you can put the public's mind at ease and restore full confidence in the election system. But the fact that they won't allow voter ID tells you everything you need to know. They're trying to make it as easy as possible to cheat. Why? Because they cheat. And when you call them out on it, look how they behave. Like a bunch of savages. There's no reason. They don't call you up and say, why, Denise? I want to hear your reason. And then I'll tell you why I think you should vote for me. No, they threaten, they intimidate, they bully, they yell, they scream. In other words, like a typical liberal. And by the way, Denise, did you notice What happened to the tolerance? Huh? To the tolerance. Denise, thank you very much for that call. Bob in Woburn. Thanks for holding, Bob, and welcome.
Jeff.
Bob.
Jeff. I got to tell you.
Bob, can you pick up the phone? You're on speaker. We can barely hear you.
Hold on. How do I do this? Can you hear me?
Yeah, loud and clear. Go ahead, Bob.
Listen, today is one of the best shows that you've ever done. And I've tried to call you in the past. And, you know, it's hard because you've got a lot of people that love you that want to call. And what you're talking about today is just so important, and people don't, you know, there's a lot of dummies out there, Jeff. Okay? Can you hear me?
I can hear you, Bob. Bob, we just lost you. But yeah, no, look, there's a lot of low information voters out there who, Bill in Sudbury, just to give an obvious example, a Ben in North Andover, Frank and Chris in Gloucester, I could go on, although, you know, the Moonbats that call this show on a regular basis. And they just swallow whatever the media feeds them, hook, line, and sinker. But, you know, Elon didn't become the wealthiest man in the world and one of the most successful entrepreneurs by just being a lemming and a sheeple and a zombie. He's a highly intelligent man, whatever you think of his views. He's a very highly intelligent man, a very successful man who learns to think for himself. And he's saying, hey, look, I'm in the data business. I'm in the information business. That's my business. And he's the one that's saying, illegals are voting, non-citizens are voting, dead people are voting. It's irrefutable. It's irrefutable. So Michigan now is paving the way for the steal. Arizona, Georgia, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin are paving the way for the steal. We've got to stop them, and we've got to stop them now. 7:31 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's Bulldozer. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, just to show you now, I mean, things are getting ugly. 2 weeks now today, officially, we are 2 weeks away from the election. Look, there's no question now. Trump is on the path to victory. The polls now show it. You just have to look at the rallies. You have to look at support on the ground, on every indicator now, not just nationally, but in the key pivotal swing states. Trump now is poised for a massive, massive victory. However, there is now voter fraud taking place. A lot of cheating they've begun to cheat. I'm going to give you many more examples. We've just scratched the surface. But Dominion voting. You want to see what a bunch of thugs Dominion voting is, the machines? So now they've gotten involved into the game. And look, there's no other way to put it. These people are political thugs. And they have now issued a chilling warning to all conservatives and Trump supporters just 2 weeks before the election. Here is what they put up on X. Quote, Dominion is closely monitoring claims around the November 2024 election and strongly encourages use of verified, credible sources of info. We remain fully prepared to defend our company and our customers against lies and those who spread them. Translation, you criticize us, you question us, you say there's anything that could possibly go wrong with our machines or the way our machines tabulate or count the votes, and we will sue you to oblivion. So, just like we cleaned Fox News' clock and Newsmax's clock and anybody else who dared to criticize us, we're talking massive billion-dollar lawsuits. you even raise a finger against us, and we will send our lawyers barreling down on you, and we will send you to the poorhouse. That's what they're really saying. And they even go further. I'm just giving you the first paragraph. But they say, don't say our elections are compromised. Don't say that we don't have voter integrity or election integrity. And don't say anything negative or critical about our machines. Because we will protect our company, our customers, and quote unquote, our democracy. Now, I'm telling you, they need to be taught a lesson. Dominion voting needs to be taught a very serious lesson. There's something called the First Amendment in this country. There's something called freedom of speech and freedom of expression. Like, what are you, God? Like, really, I'm sorry. Was there 11 commandments? And the 11th one was, thou shalt not criticize Dominion voting? And that's why Elon, to his credit, has come out and said, no, I don't trust electronic voting machines. I know, I've been working with computers since I was 9 years old. They can make mistakes. They can be hacked into. There's all kinds of problems when you start playing with algorithms, especially when you're putting a country's entire election on the line. Let's go back to paper ballots, in-person voting, hand counts, voter ID, the way we used to do it. And let me just make one other final point. I want to go right back to you, Kuhner country. Have you noticed, again, how we're constantly being manipulated and lied to? Why do we have to have early voting? Oh, so we'll have elections even quicker on election night. I mean, to make it easier for people to vote, but we'll have quicker elections. Why do we need all these voting machines a la Dominion voting? Oh, then we'll get the results even quicker. Why should we wait till the next morning? We should know by 11 o'clock in the evening. Remember, that was their argument? So let's not use paper ballots. No, let's use the machines. Better yet, let's do mail-in ballots. This will make it even easier for us to tabulate the results and give everybody the results in record efficient time. But notice what's happening. Election night is turning into election week. Now it's not even, I wish we would know the results the next morning. That'd be an incredible improvement. Now it's 3 days. Well, actually now 4 days. Well, 5 days. We vote a month before the election. So they've gotten rid of election day. Look what they've done. Remember what a great day it was in this country? Everybody did their civic duty. Everybody, one day, we all do something together in one civic unity and pride as a country. Now it's 1 month before or 2 weeks before. And you can mail it in, or you can vote early. Or if you live overseas, no problem. You can send your ballot in. And you know what? Not only that, they'll count it for days and days after the election. So, all of these changes that have weakened the guardrails to a safe, secure election, that make it easier for people to cheat. There's no question now. And we have to wait even longer than ever to get the results. And by the way, the only country in the world, the only country now, third world banana republics, they do it in a day. European countries, they do it in a day. India, which is the world's largest democracy, over 1 billion people, 1 billion, to get the election results that night. So how come everybody else in the world can get election results the very night, next morning, absolute latest? But for us, no. With all that technology and all of these new ways of voting, and now you got to wait a week to get the result. And by the way, and I'm the extremist. Oh, he wants everybody to vote on the same day. Voter ID. He only wants citizens to vote. Oh, my God. Paper ballots. Hand counting of the ballots. Oh, he's a Neanderthal. France does it as an example. Big country, 60 million people. By 11 o'clock at night, they know who wins. They know who wins the presidential election, who wins the national legislative elections, the regional elections, everything. And we, supposedly the most technologically advanced country in the world, it's now taking us, they're now telling us you got to wait 4 days to find out who wins this year's election? Because they're trying to steal it. It's so obvious. Agree, disagree. Dan in Florida. Thanks for holding, Dan, and welcome.
Hey, good morning, Jeff.
Hi, Dan.
Hey, I'm in deep red Northeast Florida, and scary, Jeff. I see some Harris Wealth signs around. Very, very strange. They're out here, Jeff. So the other night, I'm down at the local shopping plaza picking up a pizza, and I hear this, faint coming from the, a sound coming from the distance. I open my car window and I can hear, save the country, vote Trump. Save the country, vote, over and over it. So I get out of the car. I'm looking for it. Is it coming from a car? Is it coming? The guy next to me gets out of his truck. He's looking around, and sure enough, it's a drone flying about 200 feet in the air, broadcasting over and over and over again. And so this one woman walks out. So, I like to convert people, right, Jeff? If I get the opportunity, I can spend 5 minutes talking to them, I'll convert them. One woman walks out of the store and she looks up and she starts videoing it. I said to her, wow, I said, pretty neat, isn't it? And she goes, I don't think so. And I said, oh. I said, so you've made up your mind. And she, what do you mean? I said, I'm voting for lower energy prices and lower food prices. You're clearly voting for World War III.
Wow, what did she say to that?
Sure. I said, what? I said, the nice thing about facts, they don't lie. I said, the facts, look at, I said, read. I said, read something. They don't lie. So, same thing. I'm down in Flagler County last week, and I see about a 55, I'm guessing, year old guy standing in his yard with a Waltz Harris sign in his yard. And I said to him, I was driving down. I said, wow. I said, you look like a relatively peaceful guy. I pull over, put my window down. I said, you look like a relatively peaceful guy, not for the type of guy that would be for World War III. Said, what do you mean? I said, well, you're voting, clearly the sign says who you're voting for. And he says, well, I'm more involved in, Roe v. Wade. So I said to him, I said,
yeah, look at Russia and Ukraine. Dan, brilliant call as always. Absolutely brilliant. I love the way you lay it out. 617-266-6868. Your reaction, your calls next. 7:49 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's Bulldozer. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, my friends, one of the most important poll questions I've ever asked, frankly, in the history of this show. So I'd really appreciate it if many of you could vote, as many of you as possible. Please don't vote twice, but just vote once. We're not Democrats. So it is the Kuhner Country poll question of the day, sponsored by Mario's. Mario's Quality Roofing, Windows, and Siding. Do you believe the 2024 presidential election will be free, fair, and honest? Do you believe we will have an honest election 2 weeks from today? A, yes. B, no. Personally, I'm a B. I don't think we're going to have an honest election. Now, I still think Trump's going to win because he's got such a massive groundswell of support that it is going to overwhelm the attempts of the Democrats to try to steal and cheat and manufacture votes. But that they're manufacturing votes, that they're stealing votes, I think it's irrefutable. But I want to hear from you. You can vote on our webpage, wrko.com/Kuhner, Kuhn as in national ER, wrko.com/Kuhner, Kuhn as in national ER. And of course, I'm always available on X, my handle there. You can vote there as well. At the Kuhner Report, all one word, Kuhn as in national ER, at the Kuhner Report. One of the most important poll questions I have ever asked. Why? Because this audience, you are middle America. You have your finger on the pulse of what's really happening. So I get a pretty good sense of what's going to happen by what this audience says will happen. So that's why I'd love for as many of you to vote and participate as possible. Do you believe we'll have an honest election? A yes, B no. Suzanne in Lynn. Thanks for holding, Suzanne, and welcome.
Hi, Jeff.
Hi, Suzanne.
I'm really upset about this because I've been hoping that this wouldn't happen. I have, why would they want to do that? They're not American if they want to steal it from us. We've tried so hard, and they stole it. They stole it here in Massachusetts when Maura Healey was voted in at 8:01. She was governor.
Oh, you're right. You're right. 8:01, she was governor. Elizabeth Warren, 8:01, she was senator. Suzanne, I remember Elizabeth Warren. I was live that night, and I couldn't believe it. It wasn't even 8:01. It was, what was it, 30? I remember I did the actual count. Don't quote me on this, Suzanne. It was either 37 seconds or 31 seconds. Okay, basically 30 seconds. 8 o'clock, 30 seconds. Boom. They came out, said, no, she won. The media, everybody, she's now been elected senator. A re-elected senator, forgive me. And I'm like, you haven't had a chance to count the votes yet. You don't start counting until 8 o'clock, right? The polls close at 8, and then at 8 o'clock, 1 second, then you can start counting. I'm like, what have you counted? 10 votes? And you've already now pronounced her the winner? So I knew it was rigged, and I knew the fix was in. But I digress. What's on your mind, Suzanne?
I mean, I'm just worried that he's not, that they're going to, really try to stick it to him. I mean, these Democrats just don't care about us. And I think that even the Republicans don't anymore. I think that we should, Trump's party, MAGA, should be the third party in this country.
Well, we'll see what happens, obviously, in 2 weeks. But anything is now possible. Again, to me, the story is not just that they're trying to steal this, which is, of course, in some ways the story, but that it's Elon Musk. It's not the Republican Party. It's Elon who's trying to warn the country. It's Elon that's putting his neck on the line. It's Elon that's going up against Democratic governors and Democratic secretaries of state. It's Elon who says, I'm going to be arrested because I'm challenging the Democratic voting fraud machine. It's just remarkable. The cowardice, just how pathetic the Republican establishment and the Republican Party has become. I've never seen a bigger bunch of losers in my life. So this time, Suzanne, if we do win, it's really going to be because of several incredible men like Trump and Elon and we the people. This has nothing to do with the Republican Party. I mean, they're going to ride Trump's coattails, but it'll be nothing because of anything that they did. As always, they have been pitiful. Suzanne, thank you very much for that call. I really appreciate it. 617 266-6868 is the number. Okay, you can text us 70470. 70470. This is from 603, and it's a doozy. Absolute doozy. Jeff, let me just add to what's already been said about the Department of Defense directive that was put out last week, green-lighting the U.S. military to use deadly force against American civilians, essentially overriding posse comitatus. Remember what Attorney General Merrick Garland said at that presser last month. He stated that the DOJ would go after anyone questioning the 2024 election. And then you add to that Jamie Raskin saying that his bill to block Trump from being certified and made president, even if it creates quote-unquote civil war-like conditions. Only a blind man couldn't see that the Democrats have been engineering another steal and trying to position everything in advance to have a gun to hold to the head of the American people, not to resist their Bolshevik overthrow of the federal government. Well, that's my fear, and that's Elon's fear, and that's Trump's fear. That it's obvious now. They can't win this thing fairly, so they're going to try to steal it and then prevent us from even protesting or calling it out, criticizing it, challenging it, claiming that we're engaged in quote-unquote insurrection. And that's why I'm urging Trump and Elon and the Republican Party, take this to court now. Now. You've got to challenge this in the courts now. And let me just add this. You're going to go into the most important election of our lifetime. Arguably the most important election since 1860. And your voter rolls are dirty? I'm talking about Michigan now. Secretary of State Joycelyn Benson, because this is her rebuttal. Her rebuttal is, well, there's a lot of dead people on the voting rolls. That's why there's 8.3 million registered voters, but only 7.9 eligible voters. And Elon's counter rebuttal, which is a brilliant one, so you've got dirty voting rolls and you're not purging and cleaning the voting rolls before such an historic election? And you call yourself the Secretary of State? Dead people are going to be voting. Illegals are going to be voting. Non-citizens are going to be voting. There's going to be duplicate voting, multiple people voting, or people voting with multiple ballots, just like they did in 2020. The only question now is if this time they can manufacture enough votes to steal it again. That's the only question. Hank in California. Thanks for holding, Hank, and welcome.
Hey, good morning, Jeff.
Hi,
I have 2 points, if you'll allow me. The first one is I'm not even a registered voter in California, but yet here I am holding a mail-in ballot for the California election. Now, had we had in-person voting with ID, they would know that I'm not eligible to vote here. But this is what the system they want. But my second point is
Hank. Sorry, I promise I'll give you all the time in the world to get your second point out. So, Hank, if you don't mind me asking, so you're going to be voting in a different state, correct?
Correct, Washington State.
So, in theory, if you were not an honorable, honest man, you could vote in Washington State and then cast a mail-in ballot in California and basically vote twice, correct?
Correct.
And the only thing preventing you is the honor system, that you're a sense of honor on your part.
100%.
That's incredible.
So I'm actually taking off here in a couple of days to drive up to Washington to vote. So I'm going to drive 1,000 miles up to Washington just to cast my vote. But meanwhile, if I was to turn this in, no one would catch me, but that's just not how this country works. And it's just unbelievable how they're willing to just flush this election system down the toilet. It's just heartbreaking. But So my second point, and it kind of piggybacks off of what your texter said, but so Jamie Raskin and the congressional Democrats are entertaining thoughts of the Civil War. The Transition Integrity Project, they're saying to prepare for an actual street fight, not a political fight. Satellite phones have been handed out to select members of the Senate. Now they've essentially empowered the military with police powers. Jeff, during COVID, we watched people act like complete savages over toilet paper. Most of our society now, we're 4 missed meals away from utter chaos. To anyone who's not preparing and putting away emergency supplies right now, you're absolutely crazy. So,
Hank, I didn't even think of that. I guess Hank, really, but it's a brilliant point. Please don't get me wrong. I'm crazy. But do you know that I have no emergency? I mean, I've got, a couple packs of water and some, canned food and, but I mean, nothing serious, nothing major. And I'm thinking to myself, just as you were talking, I'm like, what the hell is wrong with me? Hank is completely right. I mean, you want to be prepared. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but you never know. You got to be prepared. It's a very plausible scenario. I'm not ready. I'm sure most people in the audience are not ready. Hank, look, if you were to vote on the poll question, do you think we're going to have an honest election? What would be your answer?
Oh, 100% no. In fact, so obviously the cheating is going to happen, and there's going to be massive. Trump clearly will win an honest election in a landslide. There's no doubt about that. But my fear is even if they can't get the numbers that they want cheating, they're just going to flat out pull a coup just like they did on Biden and just say he's not coming to power.
In other words, they're going to go with the Raskin option. We're just not going to seat him. We're not going to certify him, and he can go fly a kite.
Right. And there's so many people that are just completely unhinged that would go along with it thinking that this is completely normal and okay to do.
Wow. Hank, great call. And thank you for being such an honest patriot. If you were a Democrat or a liberal, you would be voting twice. And God bless you, Hank. I really appreciate it. And thank you for that call. Don't be a stranger. Call again, Hank. Please. Dan in New Hampshire. Thanks for holding, Dan, and welcome.
You're absolutely right, Jeff. Mail-in voting, early voting, and Dominion machines are all systems built for fraud. So hit the ballot box on Election Day. It's as simple as that. Overwhelm them. A judge in Georgia recently ruled that you can't refuse to not certify the fraudulent election if they steal it. This just happened recently, Jeff. It's unbelievable. And you got that dirty governor, Brian Kemp, Attorney General Chris Carter, and Brad Rassenberger, and they're doing nothing. Just like in New Hampshire, when we had the fraudulent election in 2020, I was working that election. This is before I called into your station, Jeff, okay? When it came time to open up the ballots, okay, in New Hampshire, they had 2 machines, Dominion machines, in every ward in Nashua. There's 9 wards, okay? And they were alternating the ballots throughout the day, putting them one in this one in that one, throughout the day. When it came to the end, Jeff, they emptied out one machine, processed all the mail-in voting, early voting in one machine, okay? Now, when it spit out the tape, the one that didn't get any early voting or mail-in voting, all the Republicans won, Jeff. In every ward in Nashua, where they lost, was the other machine, and there was massive spikes. I still have all the totals, Jeff, okay? It was rigged, okay? And I got told by the cop, the moderator said I was in the way. I couldn't even watch. I was supposed to be watching. They made me move from the table when they started the mail-in voting and early voting. And the cop made me sit on the other side of the gym. So that's what goes on, Jeff, okay? So anybody that has been to recounts, Jeff, okay, we did a statewide recount in New Hampshire. It took us between less than 8 hours, about 6, Jeff, to do a statewide recount. So this thing of 2-3 days, okay, it was all hand counted. I've done several recounts. The one in Nashua, okay, that was just last year, okay, and there was a 15,000 vote election. There was changes of upwards over 100 votes. So the Dominion machines are flipping votes. And we were outnumbered in the recount 4-1, Jeff. Okay, 4 Democrats to 1 Republican. We didn't even have enough representation. How many ballots would we have found if the conservatives, they let the Marxist Communist Democrats count the votes? It's as simple as that. The governors, dirty attorney generals, secretary of states are rigging elections. Okay, look at it happened in the midterms with Kerry Lake. She was the only one that never. Her and General Memesso in Pennsylvania are the only two that didn't concede. Blake Masters took a knee. Nevada, you had Adam Laxalt took a knee, and he got a job in the Never Back Down Rat Pack. Okay, turns out he's a big he's a Navy buddy of Uniparty Ron DeSantis. That's what's going on. These guys are all bought and paid for. Okay, and we got to get involved in our elections. Jeff.
Oh, I agree. No, Dan, look, we've got to. And look, there are 8 battleground states. Okay, there are 8. And the one that I can't wrap my mind around, everybody talks about the 7 of the 8 are getting all the attention. Arizona, Nevada, Georgia, North Carolina, Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin. So those are the 7. Everybody's talking about them. Trump is blitzing through them. Kamala's blitzing through them. Everybody's barnstorming. But there is an 8th, and it's the one you're living in. It's New Hampshire. New Hampshire is a key battleground state. Now, it's got 4 electoral college votes. It's not, say, 19, like in Pennsylvania, or 16, 17, like in Georgia. I get it. But still, everybody keeps telling us, Dan, it's going to be a close election. It's going to be a close election. Every vote counts. Well, if it's going to be such a close election and every vote counts, where is the Trump campaign in New Hampshire? It's like they've written New Hampshire off. Why would you write it off? The polls clearly show, and I don't trust the polls because I think they oversample Democrats and undersample MAGA and Trump supporters. But even if you go by the polls, it's a very winnable election for Donald Trump. There's no question. And as I've said before, it would break my heart. Here, I've got now on my news feed, as I'm talking to you, election experts coming out saying it's actually, it's highly unlikely, but it is plausible that we may actually have a tie, an electoral college tie, 269 to 269. In other words, nobody gets to 270. Or one of the two wins by 1 or 2 or 3 electoral college votes. And it would break my heart if Kamala steals this thing with, say, 1 or 2 electoral college votes, and New Hampshire's 4 votes could have been the difference. So, look, the problem is Chris Sununu. The problem is the rhinos up there in New Hampshire who have been colluding with Democrats to create one of the most corrupt election voting systems in the entire country. And I can't believe I'm saying this, Dan, but New Hampshire's voting system is almost as bad as Massachusetts. Outside of Illinois and California, I never thought any other state could be more corrupt than Massachusetts when it comes to elections. Now, New Hampshire, you guys are starting to give us a good run for our money, Dan. Dan, thank you very much for that call. 617-266-6868 is the number. Jeffrey, I love that name, in Boston. Thanks for holding, Jeffrey, and welcome. Hello, Jeffrey?
Hi, Jeff. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Oh, I am extremely irate because everything that most of the callers have already spoken about, I was going to speak to as well. In Georgia, in Michigan, in Pennsylvania, Arizona, laws that were passed by the legislature are now being circumvented by radical judges on the benches. Well, where are the Republicans saying who are these judges who can basically override our authority?
Oh, it's illegal. No, what they're doing is illegal. Look, I don't want to rehash 2020 because, we're 2 weeks away from 2024. But look, there were state laws that were violated and circumvented by the Democrats in order to pass universal mail-in balloting, to extend the deadline for absentee ballots, which enabled them to steal, in particular, it was Georgia, Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, Arizona as well. But those four in particular were the most egregious. Now, only the state legislature can change election laws. The law is black letter law. It's crystal clear. It didn't matter. The Secretary of State did it, or the governor did it, or some judge did it. And this was what Mark Levin's point. Mark Levin's point, and he's right, you don't even have to get into Dominion voting and mail-in balloting and, all the voter fraud, ballot harvesting, ballot trafficking. He goes, they illegally changed the laws in those 4 states. Period. The election was stolen. End of story. And they're trying it again, Jeffrey. Look, in a way, I don't blame them. They succeeded the first time. What made us think they wouldn't try it again? A lot more. I got a big story for you next. 8:20 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's Bulldozer. 617-266-6868 is the number. Caroline in New Hampshire. Thanks for holding, Caroline, and welcome.
Hi, Jeff. Thanks for taking my call. I usually call in the name Sue. Sorry I changed my name, I just wanted to say you had said something about the military and you weren't worried about the military. And I think it was Vince had called and said that they definitely have just opened up that they can now shoot at Americans on American soil, which is it's just terrible. But anyways, so the military, I'm going to question you on that because, and I don't mean to make people more worried, but I think they should be worried. And I definitely think they should be stocking up on food for at least 4 or 6 months. But so Obama pretty much let everybody go that was conservative in the military. And then the people that didn't want to get the vax, they left. And then the people who did get the vax, a lot of them have died. I hate to say that. And then a lot of them are sent overseas. So who is our military that's going to protect us right now? And then you got to think of these illegals. I'm sorry, but the military is very woke. And the illegals, there's a lot of speculation here that a lot of these people, not all of them, but a lot of them are of military age. And what are they doing here? And we don't even know what are in their backpacks. What are they smuggling in? There's a lot of speculation right now that this is a military. So what is going to happen? I mean, I do think that they're going to steal this election, no doubt. Not steal it. They're going to try to steal it. I mean, that's up in the air as to how Americans react and how much we love this incredible country, because that goddamn piece of paper that George Bush called it is so unique in this world. It's worth fighting for. It is a representation of our God-given rights. It's the only country that supports our God-given rights. It's such a special country. That's probably why you moved here. And it's definitely worth fighting for. But I do think that we've got some troubles ahead, and I just think people need to be prepared for that.
Well, Caroline, look, you may be right. I may be wrong. You're right. Obama did purge the military brass, the leadership of all conservatives. The military leadership has become extremely woke, and they've done everything in their power to try to run conservatives out of the military in terms of the rank and file. I just, talking to people that I know who are in the military or vets but just recently left the military, I'm not convinced that many soldiers, if told fire upon American citizens, fellow Americans, would be willing to pull the trigger. Now, I could be wrong. Maybe I'm being naive. You seem to know, obviously, what you're talking about. But I just have a hard time believing that the American military would, in other words, if we were to peacefully protest the stolen election, say the election is stolen, just for the sake of argument, so they do a repeat of 2020, and now this time they really obviously steal it, okay, right underneath our nose. And we're like, no way, Kamala Harris did not win. Everybody knows Kamala did not win. This is impossible. And let's say we hold a big rally in downtown Boston. Just indulge me. Okay, a Kuhner country rally. And, Merrick Garland says, nope, it's illegal. You cannot protest the election. We're calling in the National Guard, or we're going to call in the military. I don't want to believe that the military would come and point guns at innocent, law-abiding, peaceful protesters, members of Kuhner country, for example, and a la Tiananmen Square, just start mowing us down. I think most of them would put their guns down. Most of them would say, I'm sorry, I'm not going to I'm defying an unlawful order. I am not going to shoot and kill my fellow citizens for exercising their First Amendment right to protest and to speak out. But that's me. What say you, Caroline?
There's been all kinds of protests in other countries, for, like, example, Australia. And, it was mixed. Sometimes in some countries they have put their weapons down and they've joined the people. And in other countries, there were, like Canada during the truckers' protests, there was a plane that came with the letter UN on the side. Where did those people come from? They didn't know. They had different uniforms on, So I do think that who knows what's going to happen, but I think it's important to just prepare either way, and not just food and water. I mean, they could shut off our grid. They will not give up their power easily. Even Bobby Kennedy Jr. has been saying this. It just doesn't happen. They're going to fight as hard as we're going to fight, and we just have to be ready. But if we're not ready, we're going to have to. A lot of people will fold and go with whatever way they are going. You know what I mean? So to be prepared prior to this right now is a good idea.
Well, Caroline, I have to say, both you and Hank have really convinced me. I'm telling you right now, I'm going to go home. I'm not saying I'm, rushing out to buy supplies, at 10:01 right after the show, but I'm going to go home. I'm going to talk to Grace, and we're going to put together a plan. And what do we need? At least for a couple months. Because I'm not saying it's going to happen, but I'd rather be safe than sorry. Because you're right. We got to prepare now for every possible scenario. Food, water, as you put it, if they cut off the electricity. In other words, you just got to be ready. You never know. Because it's obvious now. The fraud is there. It's being called out. It's being exposed. And I was going to get to it now, but I want to get to you because you're such a good caller. I've got a story for you. You got to hear it to believe it. I mean, they're now obviously trying to steal it. They're slapping us in the face with it. I've got that more next. For Jeff Kuhner, Boston's Bulldozer, 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, all right, here's more irrefutable evidence of voter fraud. So that's taking place right now as we speak. So hat tip to Gateway Pundit. They're the ones who broke this story. I believe Jay Valentine is the one that's, I should back that up a little bit. The group associated with Jay Valentine. Okay, we had Jay Valentine on. He's an election fraud expert, one of the leading election fraud experts in the country. Well, his group now, they do wonderful work. Apparently now has located, they have found at least, this is just in the swing state of Wisconsin. Now, again, I want to stress, Michigan, Wisconsin, Georgia, Arizona. Those are states that the Democrats won 16,000 votes, 26,000 votes, 11,000 votes. So in other words, we're talking 20, 30, 40,000 votes. It can make the difference in any one of those swing states. That's how close it was the last time. So, you may think, well, 31,000 votes, a country of 340 million, it's a drop in the bucket, Jeff. No. In these key battleground states, that could be the difference between winning and losing. So, this is now what they have found. They've now located 31,000 mail-in ballots. Now, these ballots are legitimate ballots. They're going to be counted. They have names on them. They are registered voters, but they're being sent. That's why they're called phantom voters or phantom addresses. They're being sent to ineligible addresses. In particular, they have located now at a minimum 31,000 mail-in ballots that now are being sent to Walmarts, to bars, to vacant parking lots, the people who, strip clubs, I'm not kidding, high schools, you name it, abortion clinics. So you have to have a valid residential address to be able to vote. Instead, they're being sent to all kinds of addresses. Some places, literally, it's just a parking lot. Others, it's a gas station. Others, I'm not kidding, it's a Target, a Target, as I said, a Walmart. So, what happens to these ballots? The ballots are then picked up by leftist non-governmental organizations. Those are the ones funded either by Zuckerberg or in most cases by George Soros. That's where the ballot trafficking, the ballot harvesting comes in. And they say, oh, okay, well, don't worry about it. We'll take care of it. And then they'll cast the ballot. They'll send in the ballot. So you're looking now at 31,000 free-floating ballots. That's just what we know of. That have now been sent to phantom addresses. And then they're scooped up by these NGOs, and then they are sent in allegedly on behalf of the person who's registered to vote. Now, I'm telling you, do you know how hard Republicans are working to just get hundreds of people to flip from Democrat to Republican? Dan from Florida called and said, Jeff, I talk to people, I try to convert them one at a time. Poof. They just generated 31,000 ballots like this. Like this. Now, that's Wisconsin, okay? Here's the bigger one. And this came straight from Brad Raffensperger, the Secretary of State for Georgia. Okay, that corrupt rhino trader. There are 2.8 million Americans, allegedly, that are living overseas that apparently are registered to vote and want to vote. 2.8 million. But here's something I had no idea. Do you know that you can register to vote if you live overseas? Not just through the government. You can literally register to vote through a Democratic Party website. You literally go to the Democratic Party's official website and you can register to vote from overseas. You don't have to give a social security number. You don't have to provide any ID whatsoever. No driver's license, no state-issued ID, nothing. So, you can say, I'm an American. Here, I'm Jeff Kuhner. Okay? I decided to live for a year in France. But I'm going to vote in this election. Da-da-da. I go on the website. Da-da-da. I want to register to vote to send in my ballot. Okay, Jeff, any voter ID? Nope. Driver's license? Nope. State-issued ID? Nope. Social Security? Don't need it. You're not even asking for it? Nope. I can then claim the address that I live. And there's no way they can check. There's no way they can check. So I'm just going to make up an address. Instead of saying, 50 Johnson Street in Rentham, Massachusetts, okay? No. I live in 50, let me take a look, Johnson Street, there is one in Wisconsin, in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, or in Atlanta, Georgia, or in Philadelphia, PA. Because according to Brad Raffensperger, I'm just going now by what he's saying, 1.6 million, listen to this, of the 2.8 million Democrats registered to vote overseas live in Georgia, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, Michigan, or Arizona. Can you believe that? Over half of all these Americans that are living overseas and sending in overseas ballots, over half of them, they happen to live, holy shamoly, Shazam, in the 5 crucial battleground states. I can't believe it. What a coincidence. What a coincidence. Bull, you know what I want to say? That's horse crap, okay? Bull crap. You mean to tell me you've got 2.8 million registered Democrats allegedly voting in overseas ballots? And by the way, those are the ballots Raffensperger says, we're going to wait till Friday after the election. Tuesday, November 5th is election day. We're going to wait Wednesday, and we're going to wait Thursday, and we're going to wait even Friday. And then when they come in, we're going to count them. That's when he said 75% of the election results we will know on election night in Georgia, but the other 25%, i.e. the manufactured ballots, that's going to take 3 or 4 days. No, we're still counting way after election night. No, hey. 1.6 million out of 2.8 million. One half is 1.4 million. Over half are voting in only 5 states. And they happen to be the 5 most crucial battleground states that will literally determine the outcome of this election. Let me tell you what's happening. Let me tell you what's obviously happening. They're getting people to manufacture ballots, claiming that they're voting overseas or absentee in another country, and they're saying, we need you to vote where it matters. I don't care if you live in Alaska. I don't care if you live in Idaho. I don't care if you live even in California or wherever. Your vote means nothing there. But I'll tell you where it does matter. In Arizona, in PA, in Michigan, in Wisconsin, in Georgia, take your pick. Just pick an address and send it in. And Brad Raffensperger is going to be accepting this? Pennsylvania apparently is accepting this? That corrupt Secretary of State in Michigan, Joycelyn Benson, is accepting this? The Democrat hacks in Arizona are accepting this? Now, this is my fear. That's a lot of votes now. We're not talking 10,000, 20,000, 30,000. We're now talking several million votes that they're going to try to pour illegally into these battleground states. If Trump loses the election, it's because they stole it from him. That's what this is now all about. And they think that maybe, what is the number, 2 million votes or whatever it's going to be when everything is said and done, that's going to be the difference maker in those 5 states. Where is the Republican Party? Where are the lawyers? It's time to be taking all of these people to court now, Sue. 850 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's Bulldozer. 617-266-6868 is the number. Now, look, many are saying, geez, Jeff, this is pretty depressing news. To me, it's not depressing. Sunlight is the best disinfectant. You want to know the truth. You don't want it in the shadows. You want it to be, in the light so you can combat it and defeat it. So it's better to know about this before than after the election. So look, there's 2 weeks. This can still be stopped or at least slowed down considerably. But Trump's people have to move. The RNC has to move. And the Republican Party, I don't know what these people do all day. But you've got a massive team of election lawyers. It's time to start going to court. And it's time for Trump and Elon. Elon's doing his part. Trump's doing his part. But they got to start really now raising this issue. Because the steal is definitely on. No question about it. 617-266-6868. And honestly, I still think they're going to lose. Because Trump has that much support. There's too many votes and ballots to manufacture. I mean, I could be wrong. I'm not saying I'm infallible. Far from it. I don't have a crystal ball. But Kamala Harris's campaign is imploding in front of our eyes. And Trump has got so much support now. It's going to be very, very hard for them to steal that many votes. But it's in the millions now. So they're deadly serious. They're all in. They're going to try to steal it. We have to stop them. Agree, disagree. Raymond in Arlington. Thanks for holding, Raymond, and welcome.
Kuhner man, I love you in a non-sexual way.
Thank you, Raymond.
This is what I'm thinking. Everybody has a cell phone. Take a picture of your ballot. Get some ink. Put your fingerprint on your ballot and send it in. We're not going to get a receipt, but yet, if you put your fingerprint on your ballot, you're good to go. We'll count them all up. We'll know which ones are correct. We'll know who's not supposed to be here, and we'll know who's supposed to be here. So when you make your, selection, that's it. Done. Game over.
Then at the next one.
Raymond, I'm just curious. How would you answer our poll question if, you were voting? Do you believe this is going to be a free, fair, and honest election? Would you say yes or no?
I go back to the last election, and I can say that no matter how good Trump looks, they're going to steal it regardless. He's ahead in the polls. They stopped the count, and they stole it. They're going to do the same thing. The news is the biggest thief, right? Just don't even turn the news on. Anybody that's going to be doing the election or watch it, don't watch the news because they're going to lie and lie and lie. I mean, maybe that's one of the things. Maybe everybody should just boycott the news at that time of the election and just walk away from it. Don't even watch the news anymore. End it.
Interesting. Raymond, I like it. Interesting. Raymond, thank you very, very much for that call. Look, I don't want to repeat myself, but, Fox News, as I said in my opening monologue, the guy who heads their decision desk, who infamously in 2020 called Arizona early for Biden. They were still voting in Arizona. And he said, oh, no, it's over. Arizona's finished. It's gone for Biden. They're like, well, they haven't even counted the votes yet. They're still voting. He now has come out and said, election night, we'll have no results for you. You're not going to know the final results. You're going to have to wait at least 4 or 5 days later. So, and then CNN, ABC News, CBS, ABC, they're all saying, no one's going to know anything on the night of the election. Maybe 4 or 5 days later, we're going to know who won the election. So they're trying to repeat 2020 all over again. You're right, Raymond. So don't reward them with ratings because that's how they begin to manipulate us. You watch and they show these screens and, different counties and they do this whole, they play, they put up Arizona and then they put up Wisconsin and they go, oh, Harris is doing better than expected here. And oh my God, turnout's a little lower there for Trump. And oh, this is going to be a nail biter. And this is going to go on for days. Brett, we're going to be looking at this for days. And that's how they convince you that maybe the whole thing was on the up and up. Raymond, thank you for that call. Jeff in Wilmington. Thanks for holding, Jeff, and welcome.
How are you? Thanks for taking my call.
My pleasure,
listener.
Jeff. Welcome, Jeff.
Thank you. You had mentioned UOCAVA a couple of minutes ago, and what's interesting is I'm with a couple of election integrity groups in Massachusetts. One of them is Massachusetts for Fair Elections, and the other is United Sovereign Americans of Massachusetts. We took a look at the UOCAVA votes coming into Massachusetts because we're doing an analysis of the voter rolls. This isn't the first time we've done that. And what we found is that there are no registered voters associated with the incoming UOCAVA votes. The ID number associated with the UOCAVA incoming votes we're not able to associate that with any registered voter. It's a different format. In addition to that, we did an analysis of the voter rolls in Massachusetts last spring. We found that there were almost 800,000 illegal or uncertain voter registrations. This data came directly from the state via city and town clerks. Of those voter registrations, this is the November 8th, 2022 election, almost 300,000 of those people voted. In addition, there were almost 88,000 more votes counted than voters who voted in the November 8, 2022 election. Federal law allows for only 1 in 125,000 ballots in error in order for an election to be certifiable. In the interim, what we've done is our Massachusetts for Fair Elections group, MA4, the number 4, fairelections.org, has sued Secretary Galvin for failing to provide the statewide voter rolls as is required by federal law, the 1993 National Voter Registration Act. And we expect to win that case because there is precedence in 3 other states. And he's fighting us at this point, but we expect to win that case. Nationally, United Sovereign Americans, I have to say that I'm not a spokesperson. I'm a volunteer with United Sovereign Americans, but they're a nationwide group. They have filed 9 federal lawsuits in Maryland, Pennsylvania, Florida, Ohio, North Carolina, Georgia, Colorado, Michigan, and Texas. Those lawsuits were drafted by Bruce Castor Jr. That name might ring a bell. He's the former impeachment attorney for former President Trump, who got him exonerated. He's the lead attorney for United Sovereign Americans. Their website is unite4freedom.com. And I would encourage everybody to go to those websites. I can tell you that funding is a definite issue. We want to continue this litigation through the election and well into next year. And I would also encourage everybody to go to the unite4freedom.com website to file any election complaints. Those complaints will get stored by United Sovereign Americans, and we will also be able to send them out to law enforcement agencies, and they're required to act on those. And so these 2 election groups have been extremely active in Massachusetts, and we're starting to get to the bottom of this.
Jeff, the information you're giving now, it doesn't surprise me, but it is shocking. I mean, I've known it was bad. Honestly, I didn't know it was this bad. So you're basically looking at 800,000 votes or voters on the rolls that are, let's put it this way, very questionable. That's a lot of voters. And I've got to ask you, has the Massachusetts Republican Party, have they been in touch with you? Has the Mass GOP committee, especially the head of the Mass GOP, Amy Carnevale? Because, I mean, don't they want to win elections? Don't they want to stop voter fraud and corruption? Have they reached out to you? Are they helping you with these lawsuits? Have they said, my God, 800,000 potentially fraudulent voters. This is the mother of all scandals. Let's get this information out there. Let's try to corroborate it even more, verify it even more, and disseminate it. Have they done anything like that, Jeff? Has anybody called you from the Mass GOP?
Actually, someone did call. The election coordinator for the GOP did call, and she actually joined our Massachusetts for Fair Elections group. We have about 90 volunteers that we invite to the group every week. So to that extent, they did get involved, but nothing from Amy Carnevale or anything like that. So we're in the process of doing another analysis right now.
Sorry, Jeff, I'll let you finish. But so nothing then from the head of the Mass GOP? Nothing?
No. So the next analysis that we're doing is we have flagged those 800,000 voters as being either illegal or uncertain. And so this is from last spring when we did our analysis. And now what we're doing is we're collecting the mail-in ballot information from the early voting extracts or reports that are being sent to us. And we are going to be able to identify people who turned in early ballots via mail-in ballots that are on that list and should not have voted until they were properly vetted. We're not saying that those people are certainly illegal, but they need to be investigated before they're allowed to vote. And I guarantee you that there is going to be either thousands or tens of thousands of those votes being counted when they shouldn't be. So Massachusetts, the voter rolls in Massachusetts are an absolute disaster, and the state knows it.
Jeff, dynamite call. Dynamite call. Please call again. And thank you very much for all that information, and keep up the outstanding work. I'm behind you guys all the way. Thanks again, Jeff. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay. Which leads me now to listen now to this. Okay. Just to show you, to piggyback off of what Jeff just said, to reinforce what he's saying. It's a slightly different angle, but basically it's show you how corrupt things are in this state. By the way, the same in New Hampshire, the same in Pennsylvania, the same in Georgia, the same in Arizona. So what you're seeing here is a template of what's happening in many other states across the country. So this was just maybe a week ago. Don't quote me on this. Maybe a week, 10 days ago. I've been waiting to use this story. So this is in Somerset, Massachusetts. Okay, there's a video. The story went viral. It went all over the place. So the assistant town clerk. This is the assistant town clerk. That's the one that, handles all the mail-in ballots. So here's a picture of the assistant town clerk in Somerset. Hands an election worker a stack, and it's box after box of mail-in ballots, who then takes them in her personal vehicle, unattended. There's no security, to the town polling location. And in the parking lot, this was on the town hall. This was on primary day this past September. Okay, the story broke last week. Now, you can see the ballots are unattended. Then they're being moved without a police officer or even a second poll worker present. Ballots, boxes of mail-in ballots. This was for the primary. I'm telling you, I treat my groceries with, I swear to you, I went grocery shopping last night. I bring Ashton with me to help me shop, to help me, bring the bags of groceries to the car, to help me load, to help me unload. I've got a second person. Granted, he's 14, but still, I've got a second person helping me, with putting food in the cart and helping me at the checkout. And you take a box full of ballots, box after box. There's got to be minimum. There's hundreds of votes there. You just hand them off to another person, a woman, an election clerk. She dumps them in the trunk of her car, drives to the location where you're supposed to dump these ballots, and the door is open, the trunk is open, the ballots are just there, and someone took a video of it. That's how we know about it. The residents were shocked. And the woman is talking, she's yakking, It's unattended. It's completely exposed. Chain of custody. I don't know what the hell happened to the chain of custody. No cop, no police officer, no law enforcement. There's not even a second election worker. You lose the ballots. You start tearing up the ballots. You try to invalidate the ballots. There's just a million things that could go wrong. For whatever reason, heavily Republican area. We don't want that. Keep the ballots in the trunk. You don't even actually deliver them, or you only deliver half of them. You don't know. You don't know. This is how our elections are run in the state? It's a joke. It's a joke. Are you serious? Now, here's another one for you, okay? I won't mention this person's name because Galvin and Healy, and she's vicious. She is vicious. Healy and her people are going to go after him hard. So let me just say he's a friend of mine and lives in Brockton, okay? Lives in Brockton. And here it is. I have it right in front of me. He took a picture and then he sent it to me. In fact, multiple pictures. He is registered to vote in the town of Brockton, Massachusetts. He does not want to vote by mail. He's like me. He wants to vote in person. I believe he's going to do early voting. I like to do same day voting, but let that go. Okay? But he doesn't want to vote by mail. He never asked to vote by mail. Well, lo and behold, he said, Jeff, you want to see how rampant voter fraud is in this state? Here it is. I don't need to read the Boston Globe because they don't cover it, or the Boston Herald because they refuse to cover it as well. I can just go to my own mailbox. And there it is. 2, not 1, but 2 mail-in ballots delivered right to his name. Right to his name. And there it is. So he said, technically, I can vote 3 times. I can take the first mail-in ballot, this is for president, and go Donald Trump. He's a Trump supporter like me. Send it in. Second ballot, Donald Trump. Send it in. 2 mail-in ballots. They don't check. They don't know. Then go in person and vote again. He goes, that's 3 votes for Donald Trump. And he says, to show you how sloppy and disorganized and fraudulent and corrupt the whole system is, my neighbor upstairs said, hey, I got 2 mail-in ballots as well. And I never asked for these mail-in ballots. I never asked for them. And then he said to my friend, I'll just call him Sam. I'm going to make up a name. He goes to Sam and says, Sammy, if I wasn't an honest guy, I would just vote for a Harris supporter. He goes, I would just send it in to Harris. I go 2 votes for Harris, and I go vote for Harris in person. That's 3 votes, and he's chuckling and laughing. Now, don't tell me that the election system in Massachusetts is on the up and up. Don't tell me, like Bill Galvin did, this was the safest, most secure election in American history. It's a bald-faced lie. A lie. So, as Sam told me, I can read to you the text message if you like. He goes, Jeff, 2 people. I live in the main part of the house. This guy's the renter upstairs. Okay, Stanley. Stanley's the renter upstairs. That should be 2 votes. We could have 6 votes. It's all based on the honor system. It's what Hank in California, an hour ago, 2 hours ago, when he called in. He said, I live in Washington State. I didn't ask for a mail-in ballot. I live in California now. I get a mail-in ballot. I'm registered in Washington State. I'm temporarily in California. I got a California mail-in ballot. So, if I wasn't an honest man, I could mail my ballot in California, say he's a Trump supporter. Here it is for Trump, bang, 1 vote. Go to Washington State, bang, a 2nd vote. Now, just sit back objectively, okay? Hear what the other side is saying. He's Hitler. He's Hitler. That if he comes to power, he's going to establish a dictatorship. He's going to put everybody into internment camps. He's going to start World War III. It's the end of the world. Donald Trump wins. We are living under a brutal fascist police state. They keep saying it over and over and over and over again. And you get 2 mail-in ballots in your home? And you're going to vote, say, early voting? And you're a crazy moonbat? And you're thinking, democracy's on the line. Constitution's on the line. Hell, Donald Trump wins January 20th. I'm in some concentration camp, according to Kamala Harris and Mika Brzezinski and Joe Scarborough. You know what? I'm going to send in those 2 mail-in ballots, and I'm going to vote in person. Of course you would. You're not going to cheat to prevent yourself from going into an internment camp? That's why they put out this toxic, disgusting rhetoric. It's to justify rampant voter fraud. It's to ease people's consciences. In fact, honestly, let me flip it. And God is my witness, like I'm in the confessional. If I honestly believed, truly believed, that Adolf Hitler is right around the corner, and he's going to send me and my family and all of you to our death camps, the concentration camps. And they're like, look, there's only one way to stop him, Jeff. Yeah? You got to vote multiple times, man. You don't vote multiple times, you're all dead. You wouldn't vote multiple times? Who wouldn't? That's the ultimate strategy. Psychological warfare. Convince people, vote early, vote often. 921 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's bulldozer, cleaning up the liberal bull. So here it is. This is like, there's the picture. 2 mail-in ballots, side by side, same name, same address, same zip code, same everything. And underneath it, Jeff, this is how the Democrats cheat. I got 2 of these in the mail. Don't tell me the elections in this state or in other states are above board, because they're not. That's the problem with universal mail-in balloting. And every country that's tried it has said it turned out to be an absolute disaster. And now we're living through it again ourselves. John in Groveland. Thanks for holding, John, and welcome.
Morning, Jeff. How are you?
Good. Very good, John.
Jeff, would you say that the mainstream media is perpetrating a fraud as they show Harris and Trump within the margin of error, virtually tied with their fake poll numbers?
Yes.
And do you think that would be because it would make a stolen election more plausible if it took place?
That's right.
So
that's exactly that's exactly why they're doing it, John.
Okay,
Trump,
so
it's not within the margin of error. Trump is way up. It's not even close.
Correct. Double digits, most likely. So 4 or 5 weeks ago, Elon Musk conducted a raw poll on X, left it up for, I believe, 48 hours. I don't have the exact, but I want to say it was like 27, 30, 31 points ahead of Harris. So I would hope Elon, 5 days before the election next week, would do another raw poll, leave it up for 48 hours, and that way if they try and steal it or say that she's close within the margin of error or they're neck and neck, this refutes that. Because the Democrats, they have nothing to run on. Their policy is zero. They're banging the abortion drum. That's all they have. They lie, they cheat, they steal. They're mocking Christians 2 weeks before an election. Today's Democrat Party is the epitome of evil, Jeff.
You're completely right. And, John, you're right. They're the epitome of evil. There's no question. But just think about this. Okay, just stand back. They're mocking Christians. in a most disgusting, obscene manner. So, over half the country are, composed of Christians. So how many voters are you kissing away? Then she goes on Al Sharpton and tells Al Sharpton that if black men in particular don't vote for her, they're being quote unquote misogynistic. So now she's insulting black men. Then she goes, I forget where, it was somewhere else, where they were going back and forth, and she said, well, if white people don't vote for me, they're being racist. So she's insulting Christians. She's insulting black men. She's insulting every single white person in the country. Now, how do you win? Just forget anything else. Just logically, politically, if you're spitting in the face of massive voting groups. Here, I'm running for office, John. Okay? All the women out there, all of you women, I hate you. You suck. Okay? You suck. You don't vote for me, you're a man-hater. Bang. To all the white men out there, I'm a white guy. You don't vote for me. You know what? You're a loser. Okay, I just go, all you blacks out there, you don't vote for me, you're a racist. You're going to say, Jeff, who the hell is left to vote for you, man? That's the kind of campaign she's running. It's the most incompetent, frankly, stupid campaign I've ever seen in my entire life. And they're trying to tell us that the polls are neck and neck? That this thing is going to be down to the wire on a razor's edge? Could go 20, 30,000 votes in Georgia and Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, and this thing could, a few thousand votes here or there, and they could decide the whole election. Right. And if you believe that, I've got swampland in Florida you may be interested in. So I've never seen such an inept politician and campaign in my entire life. So that's why I don't believe the polls. And I completely agree with you. I think Elon should do a second poll. Maybe 4 or 5 days, a week before the election. And say, if the election were held now, who would you vote for? And then it's going to be, I'm telling you, it's going to be 30 plus points for Trump. And then turn around and say, and this is supposed to be a nail biter? They're trying to set up the steal. It is so obvious. The only difference, John, is that this time, unlike in 2020, we're not going to fall for it. I think that's the blind spot. In 2020, many people didn't want to believe it. Many conservatives and Trump voters were caught off guard. Not this time. This time, they've gone to the well one too many times. 617-266-6868. Agree, disagree. All of your calls. Next. Trump's going to win. I'm telling you, he's going to win. 9:31 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's bulldozer. Let me just play you one very quick clip. Cut. I know many of you are waiting. I promise I'm going to get to your calls. This was, remember when he was at the McDonald's on Sunday, putting on the apron. He made some fries. He was in the drive-thru working the window. And there was a woman at the McDonald's drive-thru. And she's from Brazil. Listen to what she told Trump. Roll cut 15, Mike.
A lot of fun here, everybody.
Oh, my God. Oh, my God.
Look at all the fake news over there. Hello, everybody.
You can text us, right?
And this is compliments of Trump, okay?
Yes, thank you. Mr. President, please don't let the United States become Brazil, my native Brazil.
We'll keep it good.
Please.
We're going to make it better than ever, okay?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. It's a pleasure, Mr.
Compliments
President.
of Trump.
Yes, thank you so much.
Thank you over there.
Thank you. Oh, my God.
Have a good time.
Thank
nice
you.
to see you. Bye, darling. Have a good time. Thank you.
So there she seems like a wonderful woman. Her kids are in the car. She's a legal immigrant from Brazil. And, please, Mr. President, don't let the United States become like Brazil, my native Brazil. In other words, please, let's not become a third world hellhole. With all due respect to, Brazilians have a beautiful culture and I admire them as a people. But let's be honest, Brazil is a very poor country. Okay, it's sad. It's heartbreaking. And that's what she's saying. Please, let's not go down that road of third world socialism. We will never recover. Now, what I'm saying is, historically, immigrants legal immigrants from Brazil, they vote Democrat. And from many other countries around the world, historically, they vote Democrat. They're voting Trump. It's not just that Kamala is struggling with black men, and the Latino vote has completely flipped. And she's struggling with young voters and all these traditional voting blocks. Trump is now killing it with voting blocks that historically always went for the Democrats. Now, look, I don't know how many ballots they're going to manufacture. See, they got a problem. The more ballots they manufacture, the more obvious it is that they're stealing the election. And you're going to hit the point, as I talked about at the beginning of the show with Michigan, where you're going to have more registered voters than eligible voters, or in this case, the election, more voters who voted, quote unquote, voted, than are eligible to vote. What does the regime do then? So let me get this straight. I'm just going to make up a number now. Only 150 million Americans are eligible to vote, but 170 million votes were cast? It's fraud. It's obvious fraud. And the regime can't escape it. So they can steal some, but there's a limit to how much they can steal. And that's the problem now that they face. Agree, disagree. Maria in Ludlow. Thanks for holding, Maria, and welcome.
Good morning, Jeff.
Maria, I'm good. How are you?
I'm on my way home from a rough night at work. The ER was jumping last night. But I am calling because I think people get so aggravated at me because they say, how can you vote Republican if you are an immigrant? And I say to them, why do I have to vote a Democrat because I'm an immigrant coming here from Portugal? That has nothing to do with it. I am using common sense. I am looking at the bigger picture. Just because I'm an immigrant doesn't mean I have to be stuck on this little box and vote Democrat that I know it's not good for me. It's not good for my family. It's not good for my children's future. I am looking ahead to see what's going to be the best option for my children, especially having a special needs child. I have to think of his future. And I don't understand how people can be so, oh my God, that is so racist to say you should vote Democrat. I'm like, absolutely not. I'm voting for my children's future, for my son. I'm his voice. He doesn't have his voice. He doesn't speak. I'm his voice. I'm doing what a mother should be doing, the best for their children. And another thing, that buffoon, I don't even know her name because that's how important she is to me. That lady from Massachusetts, Republican, you said her name a little while ago.
Oh, Amy Carnivale?
Yeah.
The head of the Mass GOP. She's she's a real loser. Real big-time loser, Maria.
Somebody needs to be calling her office. Everybody should be making phone calls and to their state reps and to D.C., to all these people over there and be like, hello, Republicans, take your hands from under your behind and don't you see what's going on here? People need to stop making phone calls and wake their asses up. Because this is crazy. They're not listening. They did all these extra votes. I got a thing in the mail to see if I wanted a mail-in ballot. I never mailed it in. I never requested for a mail-in ballot. And God behold, I got a mail-in ballot. And you know what? I'm holding on to that for dear life. Because when I go vote on November 5th, if they say, oh, Maria, you have voted, are you all right? I have my mail-in ballot here. I never mailed it in. How is this possible? No.
Good for you.
Everybody's got to do their part. Everybody's got to do their part. Pick up your phone. Make calls. Wake these Republicans up and say, listen, they're trying to steal the election. What are you doing about it, especially in Michigan? Call and say they are breaking the law. We need to fight for this. This is not just for us. This is for our kids' future here. People need to wake the hell up. Where's the common sense? Wake up and fight. Fight. Trump is fighting for us. We have to do our part and fight.
Oh, amen. Maria, amen. As always, great call. Great call. Maria, thank you very much for that call. Just 10 seconds. I want to go right back to the phone lines. I do have to say this. Elon Musk has been such a game changer. First of all, stuff that you can say now on Twitter. I know it's X, but you know, that under old Twitter, in 2020, you just couldn't say. You would be shadow banned. You would be censored. You would be suppressed, canceled. You can now say. So there's a lot more information and truth that's getting out there. That's number one. Number two, I got to give him, all the credit on this. That Michigan story. I mean, sure, I would be talking about it. You know me, and others would be talking about it. But when Elon talks about it, because he's the wealthiest man in the world and arguably one of the most influential, okay, maybe one of the top 2 or 3 most influential people on the planet. When he raises an issue like that, boom, it goes everywhere. Everywhere. So I got to tell you, he's been a tremendous asset to Trump. And maybe Elon will be the difference maker. Look, Trump is killing himself. I mean, I don't know if you've seen him, 4, 5, 6 rallies a day. I mean, he's pushing himself to the brink of exhaustion. I mean, it's a superhuman campaign that he's running. But sometimes you can't do it all on your own. And the fact that Elon now has thrown himself all in, that could be the difference maker. And of course, us, we the people. Kenny in Weston. Thanks for holding, Kenny, and welcome.
Morning, Jeff.
Hi, Kenny.
Great program as always.
Thank you. Thank you.
Listen, I know a gentleman, and this is a fact, and trust me, it's a fact. He was a sergeant for 30 years in this particular town outside of Boston, and part of his duties was to watch over the polls. He has stories after stories after stories. With vans coming in, people escorting them into the polling places. I mean, it goes on and on and on and on. It's amazing. So, and this is just one person, one story. So my thing is that, okay, why, number one, like I think you said before, national holiday. Make it national holiday one way or the other. On exception if it's military, the overseas, blah, blah, blah. Okay. But, and another thing too, hand counting. Listen, we got by decades upon decades upon decades doing it that way. So say there's maybe the population, say maybe 30 times the amount of people. Well, guess what? Have people just volunteer. Do good citizenship. Good citizens should go down there and donate their time, 6 hours, 8 hours, whatever. I think they can find enough people. Hand count that's the only way I believe who wins and who loses.
I agree, Kenny. And Kenny, look, I know you would volunteer. I'm telling you, really, God is my witness. I would volunteer. Grace would volunteer. Yeah, this audience, Kuhner, I mean, I don't want to be presumptuous and speak for all of you. Okay, please, I would never do that. I'm positive the overwhelming majority, I mean, some people can't or whatever. They're, too sick or too old or whatever, or they're just too busy. They're working 2 or 3 jobs. But for the most part, if I said, hey, look, we're going to go to paper ballots. We're going to have to hand count the votes. We're going to need volunteers. I know this audience. They'd be okay. Everybody, hands up. Okay, yeah, sure. I can do 4 hours. I can do 2. I can do 6. I can do 5. I can do whatever. Hey, this is not rocket science, man. Look, I'm sorry. If the French can hand count their ballots, if India, over 1 billion people, the biggest democracy in the world, if they can have election results the night of the election, we can't? Are you kidding me? 950 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, liberalism's worst nightmare, baby. All right, 617-266-6868 is the number. Elon Musk is on fire. This is him on his own, at X, on his own company. He's really taken it now to Dominion voting. Don't be surprised if Dominion tries to sue Elon. So here is what Elon wrote on X, on his own account. I'm going to buy Dominion next and incorporate that technology to Tesla. You can make 100 cars a day, and then 60 more will just show up overnight. How all these votes just pop up in the middle of the night. He goes, you know what? I'll use what they're using. So we make 100 cars a day, and then in the middle of the night, there's just, 60 more just show up. Now, for daring now to expose and criticize and really start to unmask the massive voter fraud at the heart of the Democratic Party. I want you to listen now to this, okay? This is a brilliant text from 617. Jeff, the Department of Labor, the Department of Transportation, the Department of Justice, the Department of the Interior, the Department of Agriculture, the Securities and Exchange Commission, the Federal Trade Commission, the Federal Communications Commission. Those are all the agencies controlled by the Harris-Biden regime that are now investigating Elon Musk and his various companies. And this all started after he purchased X and allowed it to be a free speech platform. This is the party that is telling you that Donald Trump will weaponize the government against his political opponents. Just let that sink in. When I read the list of how many agencies and departments are gunning for Musk's head, and they're saying Trump is the threat to democracy, Trump's going to weaponize the justice system and our legal system to go after his opponents. Come on, get out of here. Get lost. Stephen in New Hampshire. Thanks for holding, Stephen, and welcome.
Hi, good morning, Jeff. Thanks for taking my call.
My pleasure, Stephen.
Couple of quick notes. First of all, when I was a young child, my parents involved my sisters and I in the election process because they knew how important it was. And we would go with them to the John Glenn Middle School in Bedford and watch them vote. And we would go home, and we were allowed to stay awake at night on election night, way past our bedtime, to watch the results come in. And I remember by 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock the next morning, after the West Coast stuff started rolling in, we knew who the next president was by early the next morning. The only reason we don't now is because it's so obvious that they're just stealing it. And for anybody who can't see that, then you don't have an ounce of common sense in your head. And on a second quick topic, I hate to segue like this. As far as the U.S. military being used on U.S. citizens, I can put people's minds to rest in the short term, at least. My son-in-law, who's a MARSOC Marine, we've war gamed this stuff. We've talked about this stuff mostly in private for obvious reasons. But the boots on the ground, the soldiers, the Marines, they are not going to follow orders from Obama's communist Pentagon. So in the short term, at least we're safe from that. What they need to be concerned about and to really watch what's going on in the background is the implementation of robotics and AI replacing the human psyche on the battlefield. Because obviously when you remove the human psyche, they'll pretty much do whatever they're told to do. So I just wanted to let people know that. In short term, do not worry about the U.S. military being used on us. Be worried when companies like Raytheon start implementing their robotic soldiers with AI.
Brilliant. Honestly, Stephen, best audience in the business. Really, outstanding call. Outstanding call. Stephen, thank you very much. Really good information. Stanley in Marlborough. Stanley, I hate to do this to you. I've got 1 minute left. Go.
Hi, Joe. I just want to tell you, how does post office deliver personal mail to businesses like that? That can probably stop the mail balloting if they do their job properly,
Well, that's an excellent point. And Stanley, the U.S. Postal Service has endorsed Kamala.
I know, but that should be against the law. And
I agree. But so here you have a federal agency endorsing one candidate, but they're saying, no, we're going to be free and fair and objective as we deliver mail-in ballots. I mean, the whole thing is absurd. Stanley? Did we lose Stanley? I guess we ran out of time. Stanley, thank you very, very much for that call. All right, look, 2 weeks to go. Trump is surging. He's got all the energy, all the momentum, all the passion. Kamala is unraveling. Hopefully, that's enough. I'm not going to let go of this voter fraud stuff. I promise more tomorrow. Bye-bye.